You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. A lot has changed in Seattle in the last week. The city has a new mayor, a new city attorney, 2 new council members, and as of Tuesday afternoon, a new city council president. District 3 Representative Joy Hollingsworth won unanimous support yesterday from her colleagues to lead the council over the next 2 years. And the stakes of leading the city right now are high. They're always high, but this year especially looks packed. There is the ongoing project of finishing the city's growth plan, another budget deficit to contend with, the World Cup and its hordes of fans landing here in June, not to mention the potential for federal policy changes that could impact the city. So, how will the City Council navigate 2026 and beyond? Here to discuss is newly sworn-in City Council President Joy Hollingsworth. Her district includes East Lake, Capitol Hill, and the Central District. Council President, thanks for being here and congratulations on the new role.
Thank you, Libby. Really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So what does it feel like to be in this position? I mean, a couple of years ago when you were running for office, you were a business owner, somebody who was coming in on this wave of what was seen as kind of the new guard on the city council. Now you're at the top of the heap. Now you are the leader of the city council. What does it feel like?
Well, first of all, I'm grateful for my colleagues. They have a vote of confidence in me, and it means a lot. And I think where we are in this is focusing on, as a governing body, the bold basics, the fundamentals. We're going to have a hyper local focus on, issues that are every single day that affect people's lives, from sidewalks to your parks to the 911 calls, like the nuts and bolts of government. As a governing body, how people govern individually is very different, but as a body, we're going to be focused on those things. And you said it, we have the budget coming up, we have the growth management piece, there's some transportation issues that we have. We have FIFA World Cup, there's small business issues, there's public safety stuff. So there's going to be a lot of challenges that we're going to have to navigate as a council.
I interviewed the former council president, Sarah Nelson, and we talked about this last month. She was seen as one of the more polarizing council presidents in Seattle's recent history. She had disagreements with fellow council members about the way that she wielded power on council, shepherding bills through her own committee. She was accused of silencing protest in council chambers. She was in the headlines a lot. How are you considering the role of council president? Are people going to notice a difference in how council works under Joy Hollingsworth?
Here's the thing. I learned from everyone. So I learned a lot from our former council president. I thought oftentimes she was unfairly targeted with, some of her. She was very public on her sobriety and going through that, and people targeted and used that, weaponized that against her, which is very unkind to do. And so there were challenges there. But I think how I'm approaching it, not to say it's going to be an improvement, it's just going to be different. We're treating everyone that comes through those doors with kindness and grace. We're going to make sure that we set the tone that is going to be very, very respectful. That is going to be the foundation of our success as council members, and then also the community as well. And humanizing us. We have to humanize the council, humanize people that come into, and know that we are all trying. We all have the same type of. We all want the same type of outcomes in terms of, we want to just live free. We want to be able to afford some groceries, just the basics, but it's how we get there. And I oftentimes know that is kind of the struggle, where we're just, trying to figure out, how do we get on the freeway, and everyone wants to build their own ramp, and it's a lot. And I'm going to make sure that I'm positive, upbeat, and we follow a really great process.
Some council observers who cover the council closer than I do, certainly, they're saying that this is going to be a very closely split body. I think this was Ryan Packer at The Urbanist who pointed out that ideologically, on paper, we have 3 progressives, 3 centrists, and then 3 folks who kind of land in the middle, council members like yourself, whose votes don't cleanly split between the center and the left. Will this kind of new split on the council, a more progressive council with Eddie Lynn and Deion Foster taking office, will that set up present challenges in getting things done? Or what do you think that will mean for the council?
Seattle loves labels. They love to say progressive or
Journalists love
conservative.
labels too. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. I call myself the free agent. We are free agents. I think here's the great thing that I love about this. Everyone has their own perspective. And that is really just like Seattleites. Everyone has their own perspective. Everyone has their own ideas. I think this council really is a beautiful makeup of what voices are out there in Seattle. And so I don't see it as this person is progressive, so this is the way they have to vote. This person is conservative, so this is the way they have to vote. There are a lot of nonpartisan things that we're going to have to address as a council that I think we'll have to get to a place where it is public safety should be a nonpartisan issue. How we fix I always tell people, I'm not going to conservatively fix your sidewalk, progressively fill the pothole. I don't even know what that means. And so as a body, that's what we are going to focus on are just our fundamentals. And when people bring individual bills and we're going to have to navigate that. But I think as a governing body, we will have a place on nonpartisanship where I think we're going to have commonality more than what people are thinking right now.
So let's talk about some policy details. You were chair of the Comprehensive Plan Committee last year. This plan guides how the city considers housing and job growth through 2044. So you oversaw the passage of the first phase of the plan last year. Now there's phases 2 and 3 to come. This stuff gets very complicated for the average person. What do you want people to know about what this process means for the city and what work has to get done on the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, there is nothing more. I did not realize how much people love trees, how people are invested in zoning. You talk about zoning in a neighborhood, you are going to get people out of the woodworks. You talk about tree shade and coverage, you're going to get people you've never seen before at City Hall, which I love. And so for phase one, we pass the boundaries of what neighborhood centers are, regional centers, urban centers, just the boundaries of those. The next phase two is how high are those neighborhood centers going to go? How dense are those regional centers going to go? And what do they feel? What do they look like? Those are going to be a lot of tough conversations with neighborhoods as we figure out how we're growing in this city, making it more affordable for people, for families. I'm a big proponent of, hey, how do we get more families into our city, young families into our city, so we can be able to fill our public schools? And I'm looking forward to watching Councilmember Lynn shepherd that process. He is the chair of our land use committee and we'll take on that select committee. That was a lot to take on last minute and not have any preparation on the runway that I did last year, but we figured it out and we got it through before a very, very timeline that we had to, we were against the clock with the Growth Management Act as well with the state, and I think we did our best in that, and I'm looking forward to next year and what Councilmember Lynn is going to bring to the table.
Some leaders, including the new mayor, Katie Wilson, they criticize the comprehensive plan for not going far enough to accommodate density for the future population of the city. And so you talked about the fact that these neighborhood centers have been defined geographically, but not how high they can go or, how dense they might be. Do you think that there could be changes in terms of adding density compared to the plan that was put in place under the last mayor? Have you had conversations with the mayor's team about that? How do you think this might go?
We haven't had conversations with the mayor's team. Looking forward to what that looks like. Obviously, I heard on the campaign trail those same type of suggestions like, hey, we want this to go farther, and what does that look like? I believe strongly that it doesn't matter how you zone something. You can say it's going to be this high and whatever. If the process is not fixed at the city with permitting, with timeline, with water, sewer, garbage, electricity, those pieces that all play into how we're building, interest rates, the cost of materials, how long it's taking someone to build, all these people, all these things, if we're not addressing that piece, it doesn't matter what type of zoning we do. And so I'm looking forward to also encouraging, not just we talk about developers in different areas. I want everyone to be a developer. If you have a house and you want to be able to build an ADU, convert it to a triplex, duplex, you should be able to do that. those are the original affordable housing providers in our city, the folks that were the small landlords, the people that were renting their back ADU or their basement, and just trying to make sure that they were cutting costs down at their house every time that we are voting on a property tax raise, or King County is, or the state. So I'm looking forward to working with the mayor's office. They want to go farther, but I also want to fix the process too. It's not just about zoning here. My house has been upzoned for years in the Central District. But it's hard to build. It's expensive to build. And so let's cut that red tape for people.
You're sounding very abundance coded. Have you read that book? Have you been in that dialogue at all, the Abundance Democrats?
I've read that book, Abundance. Okay, I have. I read that book twice. I listened to it on tape and then I read it, and it was great. There were some things I agreed with, some things I was like, eh. So, but it was a great book to hear that perspective, and it was good.
It's a kind of a buzzword I know that again, journalists love to ask elected leaders about these days. But basically, for people who might not know, it's the Ezra Klein book about basically how blue cities and blue states have maybe gone too far with regulation and need to think about ways to make it easier to build. But that's a very simplified version of this. Let's talk about taxes, Council President, because that is another thing that we heard a lot on the campaign trail from the mayor. That is something that the council has taken on to some degree, but will surely come back this year. Mayor Wilson supported the idea of a capital gains tax, raising more revenue via the Jumpstart tax. Wilson has also floated a vacancy tax for landlords, a local estate tax, a digital advertising tax. There's a big menu of things that she's talked about. You previously voted for the Kathy Moore proposal for the capital gains tax at the city level. Do you still support that? Do you think that's going to come back up?
I've heard a lot of people talk about progressive revenue, progressive taxes, progressive revenue. My counter to that is, what are the progressive outcomes that we are proposing on this? What does that look like? I love, we love being able to I want to focus on building a great tax base in the city, having strong businesses, strong small businesses. Our big businesses are a part of that. Having it a place where people can afford, I think, is key. And so when we're looking at taxes, what are we filling a budget hole? What are the progressive outcomes we're doing? I'm not opposed to it, but I also want to know, what are the impact and outcomes that people are proposing for the money that they want to raise. And if I believe that if we can build great small businesses in Seattle, and this is a personal thing, this isn't a council thing, this is coming from the council member from District 3. If we can build great small businesses, if we can make sure that we have people, our economy is great, we have enough revenue to be able to have. It's the progressive outcomes that I want to make sure that we're having the impact on, whether it's our park system or our fire system or our roads or transportation. I think that we can do a better execution on how we deliver on these things.
So just to circle back, I didn't hear a commitment one way or the other on the capital gains tax idea. Is that something that you are still looking at? What's the position on that or other revenue?
Okay, so let me tell you this, and I'm going to stake my claim, put my flag in, Libby. If I vote on any type of tax in Seattle that is progressive revenue, that's going to have a progressive outcome, it is not going to be to put money back into the government's pocket. It's not going to be to put it back into some program. It's going to be to give it directly to people. So whether that's universal basic income, whether those are vouchers for housing, food, healthcare, childcare, maybe it's in-home care for your parents, I have no clue. But I'm not supportive of a tax that's going to give us, the government, more money to distribute, because it gets boggled down, it gets cumbersome. I will support progressive revenue that has progressive outcomes.
I want to turn the page to a proposal that you put forth in the fall that got some attention, and this was the idea of sanctioned city encampments. And this came up. There was a drive-by shooting on Capitol Hill, and the idea of public safety and what it means to basically get people sheltered as fast as possible. You had brought up this idea for city sanctioned encampments that are reminiscent, I think, of the nonprofit led Tent City, which has been a successful project. But a lot of people also said, you know, this reminds us of Nicholsville, which was, a flop, and people had a bad sewer situation there, and, it had to close. That was back in 2013. What do you think of city sanctioned encampments now? Do you plan to continue to push for that? And why was that something that you put forward?
Yeah, so these are things I call them stabilization zones. I know people they're sanctioned encampments, but they're like stabilization zones where I see folks that are on the street. They're suffering from mental health, drugs. Uh, there are really hard things that they are going through. Those folks, it is hard to just put them into some type of housing with no type of resources. And what are the steps that we can get them to those homes? What's the first step? Someone comes off the street, maybe it's a stabilization zone or a sanctioned encampment where we have water, sewer, garbage, we have electricity, we have healthcare providers, we have uh, social workers, we have laundry, we have all these different things that they need, clothing, to be able to get them to a place where they can move into housing. So it's not the solution for everything. It is just a little part of where I'm seeing where there are folks suffering on our streets and people are saying, "Hey, housing first," and I'm all about getting people into housing, but I think there's a step before that to where we are stabilizing folks to get them into a place where they can be able to function correctly and function as a human being into that housing. And so I've seen it for the last 2 years, how we are shuffling people, how we're working, how the King County Regional Homeless Authority is operating. And I think we are missing a step to get people into long-term housing. And that to me is a stabilization zone, a sanctioned encampment that has wraparound services and resources. So we're not running all over the city, uh, you know, giving people a referral on the street and expecting them to go 30 minutes to go get drug treatment. That's just completely, just not working.
So it's similar to like the tiny home village setup where they have on-site social workers. There's a security component, but then there's a place to go to the bathroom in a clean way. Um,
Absolutely. There's a
mhm.
place they can go to the bathroom. They can get, the social worker. They can figure out, okay, what's my next steps? They can have a clean place, to just hang their head and just rest. And is it tent city? Is that the only solution? No. But it's one of the on-ramps to get into housing long term.
So is that something we could see you bring up this year? Where does that stand?
Yeah, it could be. So right now, I'm in the process of we have met with folks from Tent City. We're meeting with different advocates and folks that are doing this work that have way more experience than me. And then we're trying to find, city departments to find out, hey, you all did this before. What worked? What didn't work? What would be improvements on this? And then how much would it take for us to find some public land to be able to do this? Can we do this on public land? Because right now it's on private land, it's on churches, but can we do this on public land? And if not, fine. But how can we make it easier to stand up more of these places? And can we just do one of them? Libby, I'm not trying to make this so they're everywhere. Can we just do one and see how it works, see what doesn't work, and then be able to have improvements?
Changing gears, is the city ready for the World Cup? What do you think? And what needs to happen to make us ready?
We are getting ready for the World Cup. Okay. So that has been a process that we've been getting ready for. I know there's been a ton of work with FIFA. There are committees that have been doing this. There are people that have been, since day one on the ground, been able to do this. There are things that I want to see happen, like when we had the MLB All-Star game, and we had different things that have come to the city. We've seen a lot of the money be focused downtown. That needs to be trickled out into different neighborhoods. That was one of the things that we heard significantly about, like, hey, we want small businesses to be able to be impacted by the World Cup and what that looks like. And so, we're going to be focused on getting our streets clean, making it safe, making the narrative of Seattle that we are a city that's going to be ready for these teams and have efficiencies and make sure that our transportation is running effectively. People can get from the airport to downtown efficiently, that we have enough rooms available through different types of partners, and that, the businesses can be able to benefit greatly from this impact.
What did you make of the controversy because Egypt and Iran happen to be playing in Seattle, and both of those countries have outlawed homosexuality and, cracked down very significantly on gay people in their countries? June is Pride Month in Seattle, and there are Pride events going on associated with the World Cup. And those countries have, lodged complaints with FIFA. They've talked about pulling out of the match. Organizers here say the Pride events are not going to affect the match at all. What do you think about all this? I mean, basically, does Seattle need to conform to the way that FIFA does business, or does FIFA need to conform to how Seattle does business? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Seattle's Seattle, and here's the thing. Um, I I believe that we can continue. Sports is such a place where I've learned that it doesn't matter what people's background are, that you have one vision, which is like, are you going to win the game or not? We used to have people from all different backgrounds, and I'm hoping that sports can continue to be a unifier of folks, not matter their sexual orientation, their background, their skin color, all these things. I think it's something that we need to continue to push forward. We're going to welcome those countries with open arms. Those are great countries, just like I'm pretty sure the USA is in no moral high ground to be able to be telling people what we should and shouldn't be doing, because I'm sure there are people outside the US that look at us, they're like, hey, what are they doing? And so I think if we could put politics aside and just focus on sports and countries and that pride, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to find a sense of common ground.
Really quickly before we go, the optics of your becoming the city council president yesterday were interesting because the mayor was right in the front row, which a lot of the reporters who covered the council say is very unusual for the mayor to attend council proceedings. You endorsed Mayor Harrell. I know that you had a good relationship with the previous mayor. What is your relationship like with Seattle's new mayor?
Yeah, I can work with anyone. So people know that I endorse Mayor Harrell. I've known him my whole life. And I have recently had conversations and meetings with Mayor Wilson and her team, and I know her deputy mayor very well. And so, and there's a lot of familiar faces in City Hall. And as council president, you have to work closely with our mayor's office, the executive, with city departments, and find that common ground. And I'm very excited to be working with their administration, and making sure that this council can be able to deliver for Seattleites. That's like the biggest thing. You put politics aside, you put your own self-interest aside. What's best for the city? What's best for the neighborhoods? What's best for the community? I also want to highlight, we also had our city attorney, Erica Evans, in the audience, who was there as well. We had Representative Brianna Thomas, who represents the 34th, who was there. So we had, some elected officials who were there as well. And I think that's going to go far to show the unity, the collaborative nature with this council is willing and ready to work. We worked well with the last mayor. We'll work well with this mayor as well. And yeah, we'll have some differences. That's healthy, Libby. We're going to have differences, but we're going to deliver for Seattleites. That's going to be the goal.
Joy Hollingsworth is the new city council president for Seattle. She also represents District 3 on the council. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope we can keep talking as 2026 rolls on.
Always. Thank you. Happy 2026.
By the way, I'll also be sitting down with the new mayor, Katie Wilson, this week, along with my Sound Politics co-host, Scott Greenstone. You can hear that on Soundside tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime right here online at KUOW.org, or of course on your favorite podcast app.